The Rights Ricky Sanchez podcast, the only Sixers podcast, is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings app, use promo code RTRS when you sign up, and brought to you by Touchstone Home Products and Touchstone Electric Fireplaces. Get yours at zerodeadbirds.com. You heard right, zerodeadbirds.com. Use code TTP for 15% off. And Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours right now at bigbarker.com/Ricky. On the show today, boy, just the Sixers continue to drain the life out of me with their wins. They beat the Wizards today. Ben Simmons leaves with an injury, and then they beat the Spurs in what was generally a bad game, but Shake Milton game winner, so it made it feel good. So, but I think there are some good things to talk about. Embiid, there's some good shit to talk about. And then we have, I don't even know if this is legal, a Heat Check reunion. That's right. It's been 10 years since they've all been together. Dan Devine, John Gonzalez, Haley O'Shaughnessy from The Ringer will join us all at one time. And I am going to make them say NBA Twitter things and then debunk them right in front of their faces. So that's going to be later. That'll be fun. This is that's the most people we've ever had on a pod, right? We've never had 3 guests at once.
Not including the 5-hour live pod marathon.
Oh, right. Before we get going, the masks from Buddha Babe are sold. The adult ones are sold out. It's sold out. Yeah, we have some of the youth size left, but the adult ones were gone in I think 60 hours, which is awesome. So thank you to Buddha Babe. Thank you to Abby for designing them. Everyone, I saw Tina from Buddha Babe sent me a picture of all of them laid out to get sent out. So you'll have them this week, I would think. And then for everyone we sold, one goes to Chop as well. So that's great. Abby is working furiously on a new color and a new design. So we should have that within the next couple of weeks. So we're going to do another one, but thank you. I promise everyone was like, these better be as good as you say. They were as good as I say, I promise. And newsletter Thursday, that's coming up tomorrow. Maybe it's even today, depending on when you're listening. RightsRickySanchez.com/newsletter. I can assure you, Zoe will have a lot of things to say. Many, 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 many things. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights of Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who only remembers the game winners, only watches the wins, and only tweets in lowercase letters. That is Mike Levin. How are you?
2 of the more painful wins
Oh, yeah.
you've ever heard from anyone.
Yeah, they're bad.
At any point in time. What are we doing here?
So I'm watching the game today, right? And I was talking to Michael Connor and Sixers Adam in the Slack, and it was like midway through the second quarter or something, or midway through the third, and they were tied. And I was like, guys, what the fuck am I going to say about this game? What am I doing? Like, what are we even going to say? It's like the same tedious kind of shit every time, right?
There is no difference between the Wizards and Bucks to the Sixers.
No.
There's just no difference.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's playing against them. They are all the same exact team, and the games will go according to like one of 3 or 4 scripts.
Mm-hmm.
Just an immensely frustrating team. Like you said, not without positive things, but that almost makes it worse.
Yes, because you can't be mad. You'd be mad. So I wrote an article about about Brett Brown the other day for the WIP website, and it went out, and of course, the quote tweets are angry, but one of them was an old Mike Schmidt quote, something to the effect of Philadelphia is the only place where you can experience the thrill of victory and the agony of reading about it the next day.
That's a pretty good line.
It's a very good line. All right, let's start. Well, okay, first of all, the Ben Simmons thing before we get to Joel. I want to start with the positive, right? I want to start with positive. Well, not the Ben Simmons thing. That's not, yeah.
That's the opposite.
Okay, so the line from Woj immediately was no pain and no swelling. And this was when there were like 6 minutes left in the game. And I was like, well, okay, but that doesn't make any sense. Then why isn't he, like, if there's no pain and no swelling, I don't know. It's a non-contact tweak. I just worry about meniscuses and
Sure.
ACLs with non-contact.
Meniscus is,
Menisci.
The meniscus is, you could change the name of the team to the meniscus at this point. Jaren Jackson Jr. just went down with a meniscus after the season, which is a bummer for Memphis. Who knows? I don't know how to speculate. It didn't seem to look that bad. It wasn't gruesome in like a John Isaac way. Hopefully it was just a tweak. Weird. Let's just be cautious. We're probably going to be the 6th seed anyway, so let's just keep him out. But he was certainly walking pretty gingerly.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just hope it's nothing. And if
at least it's not a back, right?
Right. Yeah. Though
the hope is that, because I don't know. What are we doing? What are we doing here? We talk about injuries so much. Just like assemble all of our just collective injuries through the years. And, some of them haven't been all bad. Some of them is like, oh, it really wasn't anything. But you always seem to think, as you're saying it, you're like, you idiot.
It's definitely going to be bad. Yeah, you were, and you were like that actually earlier. You were like, he's out for the season earlier. Now I think you're conflicted. I think you're trying to save yourself. I never thought I'd miss the COVID offseason as much. All right, Embiid. Let's talk about Embiid, because I think that has been, aside from when he was saying he was going to slap the shit out of the starting point guard 10 minutes into the season, I think it's been a very positive thing. He is notably more calm, more what's the word? Not pointed, more direct and poised. That is the word in the post. He seems to there seemed to be a panic when the double team would come, and I always thought that panic was he was thinking to himself, I don't want to pass this. How do I get out of this and shoot it? And now he just sort of looks around, realizes how big he is, holds the ball away, and finds somebody. And I think he's done a really good job. And overall, for a guy who has been excellent offensively, excellent defensively, and good offensively, I think offensively since he's come back, he has been as good as he's ever looked without a 50-point game or something. I think he's looked excellent, I thought, offensively.
Yeah, he looks great. He's fantastic, especially in the third or fourth quarter of the Washington game. He really just took over, and it was very clear that he's not going to let Thomas Bryant or, God forbid, Anze Spacechniks take care of him. It's the level of respect that other teams show Embiid. Everyone pretty much universally knows that throwing the ball into the post in today's game is inefficient. And for a lot of defenses, they want you to do that. They would Houston would love for you to do that.
Yep.
Please throw the ball into the post, and then we'll either double or stand you up and pick off the kick out passes, because we have length and they know what to expect. They're very trained.
And at the end of the day, it's just not efficient enough, points per possession wise, to match up with what other things are.
Right.
It's not going to work out.
Exactly. The benefit for Joel is that he gets fouled at a higher rate than almost anybody does on post-ups. So for other teams, the Spurs and the Wizards, everybody pretty much is now covering Embiid like their pants are falling off when he gets the ball in the post. It's exciting to see that much respect given to him. For so long, I've been talking about how bad he was passing out of double teams and making lazy passes, and these past 2 games or so have been excellent. whipping the ball to the corner, to the opposite corner from the post a couple times. Really nice. A couple cutters to Tobias and Matisse in the Spurs game. I thought and credit goes to both Joel for making those passes and, like you said, staying poised, but also the Sixers and I guess Brett for finally figuring out how to cut around him and not feel like it's just standing there.
Just stand there. Yeah.
But yeah, I think he looks way less lumbery across the board on both ends. And I think, that the play that comes to mind is in the Spurs game that Josh had that horrible play at the end of the third quarter that resulted in like a heave, and Embiid like tipped it off the rim to himself and then finished, which was unreal. So it's just we're getting excellent Joel, and despite everything else, when he's this guy, they have a shot. God damn it.
They and the thing about moving when he has the ball in the post is that if they don't move and the other team double teams, it's really easy to recover from. It's much easier to recover from if nobody's moving. That it's that movement that makes the double team so dangerous. That's how guys get lost, and that's how you end up with either a bucket at the hoop or you end up with a really wide open three.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just maybe you wind up with a set three, but not like an open shot, and there's not that sort of scrambling and confusion on defense.
And the difference is like a lot of times earlier in the season, you'd see them, okay, we're moving, and they just kind of run into each other, or kind of both go to the same place, like right on the low block, and it's like, well, this isn't helpful. And so starting to see them move with purpose and successfully is inspiring for what this team could be. But as we know, the rest of it.
Yeah. There was I don't want to rehash actually the Brett Brown yammering that goes on, but it's funny, like the one thing that people have settled on now is like that he's not playing Alec Burks enough. And I just it's like the most like us thing to complain about that actually doesn't really matter in any meaningful way.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think Burks is pretty good. I think he can give you like some penetration, and he certainly gets fouled at a higher rate than most guys coming off the bench do, which is something this team doesn't have outside of Embiid. He just a couple times just like gives the ball away in really, really obvious ways, and I just don't think Brett trusts him in that sense, which I get. Neto is totally mediocre. Watching the Spurs game, I was just watching Derek White and being like, that's a guy that they should have. He should be on their team. The Sixers traded up to take Gonzalez Pasechniks over Derek White. I will go to my grave being upset about it. But yeah, there's no good options. This team, like Shake is not meant to be a starting point guard in this league. He's I think he has starting potential. I think he has secondary ball handler ability, and I think he's an excellent shooter. But you would like a guy that could, competently dribble and, spread the court and find holes and get to the rim, and they just don't have that. So deciding between Alec Burks and Raul Neto is like not a great decision. I agree that Burks should be the guy, just for physicality sense, and it seems like he's got a quicker trigger on the jump shot and can get fouled and get to the rim. But it seemed like he went to that in the Wizards game, but he's got to not. They just have so many. There's stretches in every game where they're just like 3 out of 4 possessions is a really dumb turnover. It's like as if like someone left the controller and went to go get like a Sunny D, and they just like left the controller and the computer's just like taking advantage of no one being there. It's insane.
I kind of like Neto. I guess like he doesn't do anything that ever makes me mad, really. He's
his pocket picked twice by DeJounte.
Well,
twice in a row.
Yeah, he's not good. Look, I said
he's stabilizing sometimes.
Yeah, if you're playing him I think he's good to play with Simmons. Like, because I think he'll hit spot up threes, and I think he won't, like Alec Burks, like would call off somebody else, and I don't always want that. I do think he has the ability to get hot. The problem is that you don't know if you've gotten anything out of Alec Burks unless he takes a bunch of shots, and so. But I do think somebody I was talking to about it, and I to your point about the choices, because people are, why is Josh Richardson playing point? Why is Howell Neto playing point? Like, can you think of a championship team with worse guards than no offense to any of these guys, but Shake Milton, Josh Richardson, Howell Neto, and Alec Burks.
I mean, some of those LeBron teams had some pretty bad. Norris Cole and Mario Chalmers.
Okay, they have the best team in the league, though.
Sure. No, I'm just saying. There's been.
And Mario Chalmers would be the best guard on this team.
I don't know.
Yes, he would.
Nah, he's bad, and he kind of always was bad.
No, I refuse.
He's still out there trying to play right now.
Oh, really?
31 or 32. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. As watching this team is such an experience.
Sure. Yeah.
Crystallized in some sort of psychology experience. I don't understand. I mean, I'm watching the Spurs game, and it's just like torture, right? It's torture. Josh looks absolutely clueless for so much. Like, he hit a couple threes, and he seems to be a little bit more willing to shoot off the catch when he has it.
Yep.
And that's huge, obviously. When he starts dribbling, almost nothing ever goes right, which is crazy to see. It seemed like he was so much more competent earlier in the season, and especially in Miami, just like with the ball in his hands. That seems to have totally lost him. But then we have the best play of the season, or second best maybe, to Korkmaz against the Blazers. And it's just, I mean, what a beautiful moment that was. And so I go from legitimately throttling myself with a pillow in bed as I'm just like bashing my throat in, just watching this thing, just total torture. And then Shake to Horford steps in, Embiid, the double the post. And I think that was I'm giving them more credit for that being the play.
Oh, yeah.
The like second option of the play than just a, hey, you're wide open. I think it was more planned than it was. DeJounte was playing off him a lot.
Way off him, yeah.
But Shake didn't hesitate at all. That was a one dribble pull up right away.
And he was like 4 or 5 feet beyond the 3-point line too. And it's funny, like, Shake looks like he has to muscle 3-pointers up there. Like, as good a shooter as he is, I don't know, it doesn't look like easy for him when he shoots it the same way it does for a lot of guys. It just doesn't look like, I don't know, but I didn't.
Well, he shoots it he starts his movement from low.
Maybe so that's why
you can see the whole effort.
Like the heave, yeah.
Yeah. But that play, that was a great play, and then it's these one singular moments when you see them be like, oh, that's a really good defensive play to save the game, and like Embiid contests, Tobias contests, and they fight for the ball, and it's like, they have it, it's there. But they just have never, ever, ever shown that they are capable of doing it for more than a handful of quarters in a 3-week span. You're like, oh, that won. We found a quarter that they can do it. And then they revert back to the guys that they were. It's maddening, absolutely maddening as a team. How bad Josh has been defensively is sending me into like a real spiral.
I want to talk about the defense, but before we do, your choice: Touchstone or DraftKings?
Let's go Touchstone, because I think we want to have Haley on for DraftKings.
Oh, really?
She's a big gambler.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll save. She's not a big electric fireplace.
Well, we can ask.
Okay. Touchstone electric fireplaces. Mike, it's fucking August already. Before you know it, there will be a crisp chill in the air, and you'll still be home. Nothing will be changed about that, but you'll be thinking about, cozy in the living room and watching a movie, eating a snack, and what would be better than a beautiful Touchstone electric fireplace right there on the wall? Just fucking right there on the wall. All the benefits of a real fireplace without any of the shit. You're gonna have this beautiful flame. You're gonna have warmth that comes from the fireplace. You're gonna be able. It's gonna look awesome. It's really easy to install right there on the wall. All those great things at any size you want, from 36 inches, 100 inches, all that. Different color flame, orange, red. My dog going fucking apeshit. A blue flame maybe if you want it. But none of the bad stuff that comes with a regular fireplace. No smell, no cleanup, and no chimney, which means there's no possibility of it causing any dead birds in the fireplace.
Not a one.
In the chimney, rather. It's awesome, man. And as I said, it's easy to install. You should really go to zerodeadbirds.com, zerodeadbirds.com, and just take a look at like the different setups that people have done. I think like it's really impressive the way that it sort of brings a whole room together. All different intensities on the flame. You could have the log in there, the fake log, electric log. Well, fake. I mean, who's to say what's real and what's fake? Anyway, go to zerodeadbirds.com, zerodeadbirds.com. Local company right there in Exton. Mm-hmm. They're shipping. They're right there. You're going to have it in 2 or 3 days. And any questions, they're there for you. Go to the website, call them. There's email, there's chat. Get on there and chat. And Frank from Touchstone, maybe you call, you ask for Frank, get that soothing sort of audiobook voice that he seems to have as he's ripping Mike's script. Go to zerodeadbirds.com, zerodeadbirds.com. Use promo code TTP to save 15% off your order. Touchstone home products, Touchstone electric fireplaces. Okay, the defense overall has been just not good, bad, putrid. Josh Richardson has been amazingly bad, and it really.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it really stuck. I don't know if it stuck out for you. It stuck out for me against the Spurs on that final play when I think DeRozan just fucking smoked him at the end of the game, and we got kind of lucky that the big goofy white guy blew the layup, but. Like, as soon as I saw that it was Richardson on him, I knew we were in trouble. It seems like he's thinking about something else. I feel like I'm watching a guy who like is in the process of breaking up with his girlfriend while he's playing basketball, and he's thinking about something else the entire time.
He never seen anyone more confused by a simple pick and roll. Like
right.
He's dying on every single screen. He's falling down. He's complaining to the ref during the play. He just gets blown by. Mm-hmm. He's playing DeRozan like 30 feet from the basket. And it's like, well, why? And he's just biting on everything. He's slipping around. I have no idea what's happening. It's almost like, and this is not a me take. This is so much more of a you take. It's almost like his defense is fake tough some of the time.
Yeah.
Where he's going to he could be the guy to slap the hardwood and get up in somebody's grill, but then just lets guys walk in. Just waltz right in. And it's just the amount of times that the Sixers either let up a really wide open three off of one pass or simply have absolutely no sense of a blockage or impediment to any drive. Mm-hmm. It's just like, there you go. You want to go in the lane? Here's your lane. And you watch other teams do it. Like, honestly, Houston is a team that I really respect for obvious reasons. We had Darren Moore on the podcast as one of them.
Yes.
But they
no state tax.
They don't have a traditional rim protector back there.
Yeah.
Covington obviously does a great job. PJ Tucker's great. But the guards take it so personally to try to prevent getting into the lane. Like, I'm seeing Austin Rivers, who's not a great defender. He's gotten better and he tries, which is 90% of it. But you see him just sliding his feet, and I haven't seen a Sixer slide their feet since March. It's remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable. And Matisse is, I think, still special, but they're kind of calling him for ticky-tack bullshit, and so he seems to be a little bit in his head on that end of the court.
It hit me today when I was watching him playing. He always kind of looks like he's playing in an all-star game.
Matisse?
Yeah, he's the game isn't always 100% serious to him. I don't know if it's a vibe that he doesn't seem affected by pressure or anything, but there's always something about him where he doesn't seem totally locked into me all the time. Before you get to him, Richardson, was he like this during the first regular season?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I liked a lot of what I saw from Josh, especially defensively in the regular season, but right now, there was that play offensively where they're in a transition opportunity and he takes a step back 19-footer in the corner, and it's we're doing a transition long two. I almost lost it. I don't know. The team is not very good. They still have one of the best players in the league, so that's odd. I'm ready to call it with Brett for sure. Just to.
Well, it only took 3 games. I'm amazed by it. You talked yourself into built for the playoffs championship, and then 3 games later, you're like, you know what, you're right. Fire the coach. Josh Richardson is fake tough. You become like you're Mr. Take.
I don't know. I mean, they're just like, you watch them play, and it's just that there's no reason that they should be this bad. Obviously, they should have more guards. So that's on the front office.
Yeah.
Front office. Obviously, they should have more shooting, and hopefully, Glenn Robinson will just sort of stabilize that. But that's not, an excellent thing to hope for.
No.
I just think everybody. You watch this team play like not hard so often, and they take so long to get into their sets, and they take every pass as a chore. And Al Horford just somehow has been like a plus 18 or plus 20 in the past 2 games, which is absolutely blows my mind. I don't see it. He falls down when he dribbled today. That was tough. They're not boxing out. They're not rebounding. It seems. They are totally inscrutable.
You have to ask Mike O'Connor about his Horford take today. I don't even feel comfortable saying it in public without his permission. It was a negative Horford take, and it was the worst one I've ever seen. I have a theory about why this is affecting you so quickly. With all of the basketball on all day, you are exposed to games and teams that are incredibly entertaining and good. Like every day almost. You see like an actual good team, an exciting game. And by comparison, it does not look the same. It just doesn't. Like when you see them all in a row, you're like, oh, this team doesn't have it the way those teams have it. They don't. Maybe they will, but they don't. Right? They certainly don't look like it right now.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's also just seeing the same exact shit that you saw during the season.
Mm-hmm.
And you're hoping like, okay, this layoff, and they looked good in some of those practices, and the scrimmages seem to like pop a little bit, but they just have shown no ability to sustain it at all. I don't know. That Shake game winner was awesome. Embiid getting hot today was awesome. Passing on the double teams is great. Shake bouncing back from getting threatened to have the shit slapped out of him is great. Today the defense was better in this game, but it's still
that team,
Wizards.
That team is not even a real team.
Sure.
It's not even a real team they played today.
They have all these like how often do you see the Sixers throw up these like contested leaners from like 4 to 8 feet? How often do this? Like they're not getting to the rim and they're not getting fouled, but we have Ben and Tobias and Josh. The only guy that really goes to the rim is Embiid, and he is too big sometimes and throws up loogies and gets charge calls and stuff. There's just not enough. Just hey, get to the rim.
Well,
bully ball means getting to the rim, not having like little flip shots and like hoping that no one touches you.
The flip shot has been Tobias Harris is like skilled in no one touching him somehow. I don't even know. I don't even know how he does it.
Yeah.
So we have some guests. I don't believe on a non-live podcast, rather, because I think I did it at Xfinity Live once, and we did it on the Zoomathon, that we've ever had 3 guests at one time. So we have 3 guests at one time. The long-awaited, much like people waited for the Guns N' Roses reunion, much like people waited for Steve Perry to get back with Journey, the Friends reunion in sync. The Heat Check reunion happens right here on the rights to Ricky Sanchez with John Gonzalez, Dan Devine, Haley O'Shaughnessy. Welcome.
Oh, my God. This is wonderful. Thank you for making this happen.
I was actually not sure if I was allowed on the show. I wasn't positive what my status was vis-a-vis banning.
Oh, have you been banned?
I think I was awfully close. Mike, you might remember this better than me.
It would seem like a close one, but your general charming demeanor and attitude, I think, pushed you over the top.
I appreciate
I've been banned before. I was banned and then unbanned, so it happens.
It does happen.
We like to keep it, we have to hold people to account in some way and speak truth to power. And to us, you guys are power, so we have to.
Yeah, nothing more powerful than us right now.
We have to wield that.
Well, we're industry bigwigs.
Okay. Well, we'll start off with a banning question. So there's been a lot of there has been somebody that has been secret banned from this podcast for years now. It's been at least 3 years. And for some reason, it's come up recently, and people have been guessing and so on and so forth. I'm never going to tell. I'm never going to confirm, never going to deny. But what I would ask each of you is, if HeatCheck was still a podcast and you guys could each secret ban one person, who would you secret ban from the podcast?
Wait, but if we tell you, it's not a secret.
Well, there's no podcast. It doesn't matter. No, I'm just saying. It doesn't, like, it's theoretical. It's theoretical.
This is amazing. No, wait, tell us again about how our pod got canceled.
No, that's not what we're having you right here. I want you on the podcast. I'm just saying, if you could secret ban someone, just you ban them, but nobody knows that they're banned, but everyone knows that somebody is banned.
For me, Paolo Uggetti, because he's my biggest competition, and everything I do is to plot against his demise.
Wow. It doesn't even sound like it would be that secret.
Well, nobody's going to hear it, say that, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and listen, I'll take it to my grave. This will never get out, right? So I wouldn't worry about it too much.
So Paolo Uggetti, you guys? Anyone?
Oh man, Gonz, I feel like you probably have a list of enemies, right?
Yeah.
You know what? A list of enemies versus people I'd ban from the podcast, slightly different. I'd have to really think about this. Like I generally
somebody from your political career.
Well, yeah, more short-lived, even shorter-lived than this version of HeatCheck. But I don't know. I'd have to think about that because even with people that I don't maybe like as human beings, I do sometimes like talking to them on podcasts because
and that's
maybe you're getting some good information out of that. So I'm not really a banned person. That's a tough one for me.
I think I have this. Spike, as someone who has banned more people than I have in various parts of your life, can you explain to me, you still can have a personal relationship with this person, right? It's just that they would be banned from your podcast.
Well, one of them's my dad. So, yeah.
Actually, you know what? I would ban Genius too.
Yeah, you would ban my father as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Sharp is banned. I talk to Sharp several times a week. So, yeah, you can have a personal relationship, just they can't be on the pod.
I think I'm going to ban my brother, Kevin Devine.
Oh, wow, that's big.
I'm going to secret ban him. I wouldn't tell him because why would he ask? He doesn't want to. I mean, unless it was specifically like we're going to do a show about John Starks, and then he would elbow everybody in our lives out of the way to get on the show. Sure. Otherwise, he wouldn't really ask, but then I would always know. Like, yeah, you could ask, but like it's not going to happen.
Right? Yes. There you go.
I'm not invited into like the studio for you to work on records, so you're not coming into this. I need my space is basically the issue there.
To be an artist.
That's right. And as we know, that's how I consider myself when it comes to being on podcasts.
You
as an
are
artist.
wearing a top knot?
I don't even know what this is, dog. This is just it's a quarantine mistake. It's a problem of house cleaning and it needs to go somewhere. Yeah, it's a lot. It's all a lot. I think I'm in a room from The Shining right now. There's a lot happening. and I don't know that I'm going to come out of this alive, but we'll all come out of it changed one way or the other.
Yeah.
I wanna ease us into Sixers basketball talk because any sudden movements will result in somebody being injured. Haley and Dan, as non-Philadelphia people that have to interact with a lot of fan bases as like national writers, what are your perceptions of Sixers fans?
Actually, it's good timing for you to ask this because last week one of my friends moved to Philly. She's going to graduate school there. So we had a social distance party, but it was only like 3 of us, and we wanted to make it Philly themed for her. So I tried to pull from past Twitter interactions, and we got a Philly cheesesteak, and I got her a cake with Rocky on it, but I put her face where Rocky should be, and I tried to find that beer. I'm blanking, but
Yingling.
And we were just really, really hostile to each other the entire time.
I was going to say, did you just scream at each other the whole time?
Philly fans.
I would say, I mean, Philly fans, I mean, it might be because I grew up in the Northeast. I'm New York born, and I lived in Boston for a long time. Like, I'm used to like Northeast angry is sort of something I understand pretty well, and it's also like Northeast angry but funny, and that works. Like for the most part, most of the Sixers fans I interact with, and maybe it's because I've been like loosely in your orbit and the Philly fans that are part of the Ringer and people that are like online-y versions of a sports talk caller, and it's not just like the angry sports talk caller. I think I do pretty well with them, or they get along with me pretty okay. That has not been like the angry fan bases that are like impossible to get away from you are Jazz fans. And honestly, I'm blanking on a number
For
two.
me,
It
it's
feels
Bucks.
distant. The
The
Bucks
worst things people have ever tweeted to me are the top 3 are Bucks. Yeah.
Really? Who's in the rest of the top 3?
No, I mean the top. Like if I was counting the top worst tweets people have ever.
Or all Bucks.
Yeah, the top 3 are all Bucks fans, but Jazz fans can be surprisingly rude.
Yeah, so I would say how I view Philly fans in terms of national average is like I don't know. I think it's kind of a warmer version of something that I understand, and it's not like it's never been extreme bile, but also maybe it's just coming. It hasn't happened yet.
Well, despite the hostility, I adore Sixers fans. I should clarify. There are so many great ones in my life, so I can't act like they're bad. But I would just say that the way it seems like y'all communicate is a little bit not healthy.
Well, it's not healthy if you don't understand it, but once you understand it, it works. Well,
I feel like there's going to be a character someday called Haley from here, and it's all going to come back around. She's going to get it, and it's going to become completely ensconced in it.
Well, Dan, it's sort of unfair to ask you because you sort of seem like the kid in high school that gets along with each group. Like we
did not go to high school together.
No.
Were you a bully?
No, I wasn't. I didn't get along. I was. Anyway, I'm sorry. Spike, continue. We'll see where we get with this. But
there wasn't anywhere to go. I don't know if you've seen the rate. Like, there's a lot of bad parts of NBA Twitter fans, and you are like. If I were to attack you, I would feel bad almost instantly. Like I think I half attacked you once, and I got a DM, and I was like, "All right, you know what? You're good. I'm sorry."
Well, I would say, okay, so this is something that people have said to me, and it's like, in the guise of something that's really, I think it's a compliment. Like, someone called me uncomfortably nice once, and I don't really know what to do with that. I'm like, yeah, I don't look for fights. I don't really want to. And if somebody's like, hey, you're an asshole and you suck at what you do, I'm like, buddy, I get it. Nobody believes that more than me. So like, let's get to the point where you're not psyched about what I wrote, and we can try to figure it out. And normally when that happens, I get a DM and it's Gonz going, you have to stop this.
Yeah.
You can't be doing this to every person on Twitter who's like, actually, you're bad at this. And I'm like, I know.
Last year at the finals, we literally turned this into a bit on NBA Desktop.
Embarrassing.
Because these guys, like, we were doing videos at the finals, and when we were in Oakland for the series, and like people were like hitting Dan up about like what he was wearing and what his hair looked like, and Dan was responding earnestly to all of them.
Like, how do I look good? How could I do that?
He always looks good. He's very talented. He's clearly very handsome. He's got a wonderful family. Nobody's a bigger fan of Dan than I am. I would like Dan to be a fan of Dan.
Oh, wow. Listen, how long do you guys want to go tonight?
This podcast is actually about Dan. We all want to.
Is this actually an intervention? It's not a reunion. It's a cry for help.
We're not recording at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we got, all right. So I was, Dan, you got here late. There's going to be 2 commercials during your time, but we didn't record them before, so you're going to have to be there for them. But this one seems specifically Haley related in that it is for DraftKings Sportsbook, which is our favorite, which is our presenting sponsor.
I've been known to dabble with DraftKings.
So I lost money again on DraftKings today in that once again, and Haley, I would like to know what you think of this bet because they even boosted it today. Once again, I bet Ben Simmons to hit a three-pointer.
Okay.
Today, the odds were plus 15-15 for him to hit a three-pointer. You got to bet that, right?
Of course. Didn't he attempt one today?
He attempted one, and then he got hurt. So it actually didn't look great, but he attempted one.
The injury or the three?
Both. Neither one of them looked great, but at least he shot one. So are you a money line person? Are you a spread person? Are you a futures person? Like, what are you?
I don't tend to do futures unless it's really far out. future, I guess. But I like to do parlays, and the only time I'll do a parlay and I'll just keep them separate is if it is something like the Nets bet that I hit again.
Which was what?
I did that. Plus 1,500 Nets money line.
Very
Against the
solid.
Bucks.
Against the Bucks.
Wow.
To be honest, like I bet it because I knew that they were going to probably not play Giannis and Chris very much, and they didn't. Nobody played over 24 minutes. I mean, granted, literally every net was out. They were like picking people off the street, but I still felt like if there was ever a chance to just try it, it would be then. So
I'm a big money line person. I like a little juice. Like give me a little. Well, and it's interesting the way you say parlay.
Parlay.
You say parlay.
Parlay.
Can I?
I have a thing with vowels.
Okay.
I just tell you, I actually was just getting made fun of on the phone before I came to this for saying Vegas.
As opposed to
Vegas.
Vegas.
Like Vegas.
Hmm.
Is that normal for people?
I don't know. I don't even know what's wrong with what you're saying. Let me finish DraftKings.
It's amazing that it's all in the read copy.
Yeah.
It's astounding that they penned this. It's
So
fantastic.
They're really getting their money's worth.
Yeah,
That's why.
they are. DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook app, the presenting sponsor of the Ricky, takes my money on the Ben Simmons bet, but I'm going to keep betting it. I'm going to make the money back eventually. Not just NBA, MLB. Is there MLS? Is there still ping pong going on? Soccer, all that kind of stuff, and the casino. They actually have a basketball blackjack now, which I play as well. U.S. based, you can deposit whenever you want, withdraw whenever you want. Safe, secure, easy to use. Download the DraftKings app right now. Use promo code RTRS when you sign up. For a limited time, I don't know what the special is because they didn't send me the new copy for this week, but I'm sure it's good. So use promo code RTRS when you sign up. Must be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only, in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25 times playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Okay, we're back.
Does it watching the Sixers for you guys, and John, you can answer this. You're a little removed from Philadelphia, but in a journalistic sense, but you still feel it. Does watching the Sixers induce as much pain in a generic fan than it does for us?
Haley, I'm kind of interested in this because I feel like I've now through Gonz like invested a certain amount of anxiety in this, or like a certain amount of like it's where because like there would be Monday mornings where Gonz would come in and be like, all right, we got to talk about the Sixers, and then he would just sort of like. The only thing that it was familiar to me was like when he says, hey, so what do you think about this thing the Knicks did? And I was like, I just blacked out. What happened? And so I feel like I was familiar with that to where I'm like, I want to see it work. And like the pieces that fit I get how it can fit together. And I've seen how angry it makes people that it doesn't. And I'm like, I just want that to happen because I imagine if the Knicks ever got to a point where it was right there, I would, but then like all of a sudden the ignition didn't kick, I would freak out. So I kind of get it, so I do feel an emotional investment in that. But I think a lot of that's because of seeing how Gonz is related to it. And I wonder if Haley, you have a similar interaction to it.
I think I feel, and I don't know how this is going to go over with you guys, but I think I feel like a lot of pity for Brett Brown. Sorry, like if that's a bad thing to say, but just because I feel like he's trying really hard, and he has been, and there's a couple of things that he should have been more firm on through the years, which feel like decades, but it's just inevitable, I think, that what's going on, either it's not fixable or he's not the one to fix it, but to me, it seems like two people who I don't know, so it doesn't affect me as much, but two people who are like maybe semi-famous or famous. Let's just, for example, use like two people we all know on Twitter, so not like super famous, like Twitter famous. And they start dating. And we're like, I love following both of them. This is great. And then you find out that they like are having all these arguments and this happened and whatever. It's a terrible relationship and it's just not going to work. And you really wanted them to work together, but they didn't. That's how it feels for me. Like I don't personally know these people, so I'm not like super invested, and I'm really like nosy about it. about it not working and like its failures and stuff, and I'd read like weird Twitter threads about it, but it's not.
So it's like an Us Weekly emotional investment or something like that.
Yeah, I mean the thing is like it's just confusing because like I mean I don't need to tell you guys this. When you're sometimes competent and you're competent in situations with certain people, and then the puzzle it just never fits together. It's just very confusing. Yeah, I guess that's it. I hope that's a good answer. I
actually really enjoy the Twitter couple analogy. It
can't be super famous, you know?
Right, yeah. And you're just sort of checking in, watching from afar. You know them, but you don't know them. I get it.
And I enjoy the mess. I enjoy Shake yelling. I really want to know, have they said anything about what that was specifically... what they were saying? Could anyone hear what they were saying when Shake...
It was definitely slap the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And then Shake took offense to that. I get why.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah. Yeah, it's no big deal. Just 10 minutes into the season, the starting center was telling the starting point guard, I will slap the shit out of you.
Well, at the very least, they also can't go anywhere. They have to stay in the same place.
Right.
So if you want... And that's what you want when you're when there's hostility. You want to be able to stay in one place forever.
I mean, that's why my family's doing really well right now.
That's right, Dan.
It's good parenting.
John, how are you feeling about the Sixers right now? What's your mental state?
I'm probably where you guys are in that, you know, there were expectations for this team over the last couple of years that I think that were, you know, the process has to work now, and they have to be championship contenders. And, you know, for Brett Brown's sake, like last year, when Josh Harris, right before the playoffs started, said, you know, he didn't really endorse Brett. And then coming into this year, everybody basically said, okay, they have to make the finals, or if not the finals, then at least, you know, the Eastern Conference Finals. So there are all these expectations. And I think distilled both pre-COVID shutdown and now bubble reboot, it feels familiar because we go, oh, right, no, the Sixers don't do things. They just disappoint us. Like it feels very familiar to look at them and be like, they're flawed. These pieces don't fit. I'm frustrated. Like that is something that I tell people all the time. Like Philadelphia, when you were asking them about like how they perceive Philadelphia and whatnot. Like I wrote a freelance story when I first moved out here about how Philadelphia is the best place on the planet and the worst place. But like when Philly really thrives, and this pertains to all elements of fandom, when Philly really thrives is when we're disappointed, frustrated, and angry. And like, hey, good news.
Well,
true team of the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's familiar.
It's been funny for me, John, to watch Mike, because normally we go through this thing with the off season where for some reason we're disappointed in something, and then for the next 2 months we talk ourselves into it, and then for the next 4 months we talk ourselves in and out of it. But this off season has been very funny watching. It's been fun for me watching Mike because it's been like a hyper version of all of it. Because for like 3.5 months, we didn't even talk about the Sixers, like barely. We talked about everything else. 2 podcasts a week, no Sixers. All of a sudden, Mike like goes from like in the 2 weeks leading up to the bubble, I don't know, maybe I think they're going to win it all. And then after one game, he's like, they're terrible. It's all happened so quickly. It's been really
because
funny.
there was this thing. It's like you're on vacation with them and you're like, hey, everything's gonna be better. Like that, our relationship that was like all fucked up, that's done. Like we figured it out. We're starting Shake now. Ben's moving off the ball, and he's going to be setting screens, and he's going to be spotting up.
Oh, yeah.
The thing that is. Mm-hmm. And, like, look how nice it's going to be. It's all going to be great. And then we fucking, day one, we're back on that bullshit. Just the same fucking bullshit rammed into one thing.
Well, that's the thing that's blown my mind about the Sixers the last 2 seasons definitely. But the amount of change that has, or 3 seasons, I guess, so going back to the Fultz stuff too, like,
and thank you for bringing Fultz into it. We need
sorry. But the amount of change that has gone on with the roster, with the front office, with everything else, it's been like, I don't know what, like 24 different teams at different points of it, with terms of like rotation and lineup and construction and the way it's figured out. And yet it's all like, the overarching story is just the same thing where it's like Zach Cram from our site wrote a new story on the Sixers that went up today, and it was like they could either win the whole thing or they could flame out in the first round. And I'm like, that is the story of the last 3 years, no matter how many things have changed. And it's wild to me how, like, within the parentheses of that time, like how much has changed and it's gone up and down and whatever, and pieces move in and pieces move out. But the overarching narrative is the same thing. And I don't know, maybe that's to the earlier question of like how I emotionally interact with it, is that I'm like, I don't know how you do that. I feel like I don't understand how that much change happens without change happening. And yet it feels like that's sort of what we're doomed. It's like a bottle episode or something. It's like we're doomed to see it all, and then at the end of it, you just wind up in the same exact spot.
Well, isn't it because the three most important pieces are the same? Ben, Joel, and Brett.
Paleo insightful.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm logging off now.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys sit with that.
Well, we did when we had Embiid on last week. That was one of the things we asked him, was just like, for such a young player, you've played with you've seen so many people come in and out, and like he has, for somebody who is so emotional, he seems detached. And it sort of reminds me in radio, like radio. Now, I have not moved around a lot. I've only moved like once, Chicago and here. But most people move around a lot. And what it does is it turns them into these people that are like emotionally detached from everybody they meet, because they know they're just going to leave again. And I feel like I see this thing in Joel's like persona, where he's not like friends with anybody on the team. Like I know he's been close with Josh Richardson this year, but I just wonder if he is guarded in a way, like, to really trust people, because nobody's there like year after year, you know.
And that seems to me like, I mean, not to be, I guess, sort of like a simplistic and hokey analysis of it, but like that shit matters when it's. You need to know that you can rely on somebody to accomplish something and execute a play, or is going to have your back in a certain scenario. And like, if you played like 100 possessions with 3 different or thousands of different lineups, and you never actually build that stuff or that trust, or if you've played a ton with somebody but it hasn't really clicked ever the right way, that, like, there's a reason you buy, you know, like Toronto right now, right? Like, it's just those guys did it, and now they know they can do it. Or why you would buy the Warriors, or why you would buy, you know, other teams that have stayed together and had that success, is because they built that trust. And trust seems like a thing that's an awfully short supply within the structure of the Sixers.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that I could be mentally and emotionally detached from this team. And I can't. I'm here. I'm in it. It's abusive. Here we are.
Well, so you guys mentioned Toronto, and I wanted to ask you about Toronto. But before, like from like a grand perspective, I remember it was like 3 years ago we had Kate Fagan on, and Kate Fagan used to be the Sixers beat writer, and then she went on to like ESPN, and we actually had her on when her last book came out. But one of the things she did was she texted me beforehand, and she was like, "Hey, just so you know, I can't talk in depth about the Sixers really. I can't really talk in depth about anything because I have to know everything." Like, at the time she was on like PTI and blah, blah, blah. And I look at you guys, and you guys have to know, like, have to be able to talk about every team. It seems impossible to me. Like, I think I have a working understanding of every team just from watching the Sixers, because I see every team like at least twice. I see sometimes 5 teams. I guess I don't know what my question is. I don't know how you feel confident enough to talk on a large platform about every team, because it seems impossible to me. Like, unless you're Zach Lowe or KOC, and you're just fucking, like taping it up every night, like watching every game and staying up. I don't know how you do it, I guess.
I think when we were doing the show, for these guys, it's a little bit different because their primary job was to or their primary job is to cover the league and write about the league. So they're constantly blogging about the league. They're constantly watching basketball. For me, it was a little bit different because I went from being NBA specific to a year ago, becoming like this generalist features writer. But so when I was doing the show, it just required a lot of watching basketball and reading every day. Like every day I'm reading about NBA storylines. Now, if there's any silver lining in our show getting canceled, it means I don't have to do that shit anymore. So I can just watch what I like. If there's an episode of, and Mike knows this about me, if there's an episode of Below Deck on relative to like a Clippers game, you better believe I'm watching Below Deck now instead of the Clippers.
I would say, I mean, well, the honest truth is that you watch as much as you can, or I watch as much as I can within the constructs of like I have 2 small children and a wife, and like you can't do everything, and then try to like fill in the blanks with smart people you trust and reading and listening to them, and then do the best you can to support what you say and like watch back when you're writing about somebody. But the honest truth, I mean, like whenever somebody comes at you and says like clearly you don't watch this team, it's like, well, no, I'm never going to know your favorite team the way you do. That just like, or the way in some capacities that like, you know, like John Sharks, who works with us, when he's like, I'm going to write about this team next week, he will then go and like, I will watch nothing but that team for a week and a half and like dig into it in a way that I don't process it that way. And so like, I won't know that the same way that he will. I just have to try to know a little bit about everybody and hope and it's like trust that checking in regularly is going to work. But like all that to say, like when somebody says you don't know what you're talking about this specific thing, there's a decent chance that they're right. Like I wasn't watching.
We just talked about this, Dan. We just talked about
it. But I do agree in the sense that when we have national people on, it's always weird to ask them about the Sixers, because they say things that, like every once in a while, and we don't have a lot of national people on, I'm just like, well, that we all know that's not true, or something like it is hard, I guess, is the point to know them the same way that somebody watches a team for 82 whole games, or even 60 games or 50 games. If you watch them 8 times or parts of 30 games, it's just way different. It's just way different.
Well, like Dan, I also have 2 small kids and a wife.
Haley's been up to a lot in quarantine.
Yeah.
For me, actually, like I kind of do what Sharks does, except for with like 2 or 3 teams at a time because of the constant blogging. But something that's really helped me, because I don't really care for the groupthink of national podcasts and just like NBA Twitter overall, as we think it is with like media people, is follow really small blogs and that are like independent and people who are like from that fan base, because they tweet all the time. Like I follow a bunch of people from the Raptors and they'll tweet all the time like, this is what everyone gets wrong. So then I'll go watch with that in mind, and it makes it so much easier. So I'm literally playing into what you guys are talking about. People will be like, why do national people always get this wrong? And then I'll watch with that in mind. And sometimes I can pick it up. It's just a lot, but I feel like that helps, because you guys are right. Like national writers, I mean, I'll just speak from my own experience. There's a lot of things where if it's a team that I haven't watched obsessively, and there are probably like 6 teams that I'll pick per season, just not even on purpose, just because they're the most interesting to me. Yeah, there's like a decent chance. I mean, there's a 100% chance I don't know that team as well as the fan base does. But then if you can find some small thing and then you watch it, at least with that in mind, it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. I mean, people are always biased toward their team.
Yeah.
But I went out of my way to tweet some mean stuff about Brandon Ingram, because I don't think he's very good, and also to take a swing at Andrew Sharp and Kevin O'Connor, who I do love. Yeah. And some people, and for whatever reason, a lot of people had a problem with it, and a bunch of people were like, "Yeah, bet you don't even watch the Pelicans," and I'm like, "No, yeah, I do watch the Pelicans. That's the one thing I can say. You can't come to me about anything. I watch a lot of Pelicans. My relationship is affected by how much I watch the Pelicans. You can't come to me with that.
It's a bit on the pod. It's a bit.
You can't come to me with that.
By the way, I got to tell you, so Sharks is obviously very religious, and I was like reading his he's got like this religion blog. I fucking love how much he loves like the Bible, and I'm not a religious person.
What do you call it? The Bible?
The Bible and God, but I don't know. I went to an Episcopalian high school, so I had to take like a religion class. So, but I mean, he just fucking loves it. He writes it with the passion of like if I was a Warriors fan when they were winning all the championships, that is how he writes about religion.
Yeah, he's so great.
Yeah, I fucking love it. He talks like he's a robot or something. So I never thought he was a real person, but religion is a human thing. So I don't know. I just love it. That's it. I just fucking love it.
He was in LA, and I had given him a ride home from a game or something. Maybe it was All-Star. I don't remember why. And the whole way home, we talked about everything except basketball. He's very, very interesting outside of basketball as well. He's got and outside of religion, although religion came up.
He's from Texas, right? Isn't he from? Yeah.
Yeah, and it is like
John. Your thoughts on religion?
Yeah.
I'm pro people finding what works for them. In Spike's case, when he says he fucking loves how much somebody else loves religion, that's very amusing to me. But in the case of Charks is, I can't say enough good things about Charks.
Yeah.
I love Charks.
He's so wonderful.
And here's the swerve is that I'm going to come in and I'm going to say a ton of shit about Sharks. I have so many bad things to say. No, it's cool. Like I've had a couple of those conversations with him too, and it's like that. And he just became a dad not too long ago. Like there's like sort of like big animating things, and you're having a very different kind of passionate conversation with somebody than about like, here's why I think people respond to Mello the way they do or whatever. Right. And so that's kind of like. It's weird when I because I'm in New York and I was never out in LA to the offices before everything went nuts with the coronavirus. Like I don't know how I don't really have a whole lot of in-depth in-person interactions with a lot of our coworkers, but whenever I get them, I want to talk to them about same thing like everything else but what we do every day that we're always talking about on Slack or on Twitter or whatever. Like because I'd like to get to know who you guys are, and so that's that he has that sort of sideline is a cool way for other people to do that and for him to get those thoughts out.
Guns, my thing is
I get to know people via how much they like Brandon Clark. I feel like that's
he's got you there too.
To end a good relationship.
So Gons, I just love when people love shit. Like I was when we had Chuck Klosterman on, I was talking about Steve Hyden, and he like loves Springsteen and Fish, and I hate that. Like I hate both those, and Dylan. I don't like any of them, but I love how much he loves them, and it makes me interested in what he writes about him. I guess that's my.
Which by the way, just as you're bringing up Klosterman, and I just want to say you guys are on an epic fucking run of guests between Chuck and Morey and Embiid, which, by the way, we got bumped for Embiid, and I was like, oh, shit, I can't about that one. You guys are killing. Who's your booking agent?
I booked you guys.
Yeah. I was going to say, so what the hell happened here?
Yeah. All right, so Raptors. Raptors are obviously really good.
From God to the dinosaurs. All right, there we go.
Right.
Well, you can't do both of those in the same thing, because if you talk to the guy, anyway, then there's no proof about the dinosaurs anyway. Raptors are really like good, and they are fun to watch, and I love Fred VanVleet and all this kind of shit. And the fact, and by the way, the fact that they went from having Kawhi Leonard, who's arguably the best player in the game, Finals MVP, leave, and they have a better record without him, and there still is an unbelievable story. But Take Spike looks at them and goes, nah, you can't win a championship without like a guy. They don't have a guy. Like they have
Siakam doesn't count for you?
Yeah, and at the end of a championship game, of a game 7, you're given the ball, you're like, all right, Pascal Siakam, go get like the game winning bucket. Like, fuck that. There's no way. Now maybe like Van Vliet could do it once and Lowry could do it, but that's not usually how it happens. And there is not a lot of teams, even those Pistons teams, which everyone likes to point to, had Rip Hamilton and Chauncey Billups, which this team. So for each one of you, are they like NBA fun story good, or are they like championship good?
I think that
Haley always goes first.
That's true. That's true.
When we do round table questions.
That's right. Haley,
and
forgive me. I actually forgot the rules and I forgot the order. Haley, you're up first.
I'll do that again. That's tough because you said good, and then you said championship good, and I do think that there's a small line between those two. I will just point out, and again, at risk of being kicked off the Zoom or whatever it is, that one particular team has two guys that are supposed to be the guy and are definitely not making the finals.
I agree with you. And I agree with you. Absolutely.
The X factor for the Raptors isn't necessarily a player, although Kyle Lowry is and has always been underrated. Fred VanVleet's much better, and Pascal Siakam wasn't accurately judged last year because he was behind Kawhi Leonard, and then also was just better as younger players get. But
not good at dribbling.
Is the fact that they have balls. Like they want to fight all the time, not physically fight, but kind of like if you look at Serge, but they just want to fight. They put in insane rotations. They give the weirdest defensive assignments. It's like they're trying to confuse people into beating them. They're very fun for me to watch. I feel like fun teams are usually on to something. I do agree that there's no the guy. Like if you go back through past champions, I don't even know how far back you'd have to get a team that was like more even than they would be. But I do think you're underestimating them a little bit.
Yeah, I think the Pistons is the example that people point to. Like you could have one night was Sheed, one night was Billups, one night was whatever. And I could totally buy in a finals. Like one night it's VanVleet, one night it's Lowry, or two nights it's Lowry, one night it's Siakam. Like I can see that. I probably wouldn't pick them over one of those star-led teams in a series now. Like the argument for the Bucks, for picking them over the Bucks, is like they played them tight when they played this season. Now they finally have their full healthy rotation. They've been killing people with Gasol in the lineup, whatever. Like it worked because Kawhi took Giannis out, and you can't do that now. You can do things like it, and you can scheme to it or whatever, but that's why it worked. And so I would pick the Bucks in that series. Really like to watch that series. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think it's going to get weird as this goes forward. Like guys are going to be in and out of the lineup, not because they're going to get sick, but because they're going to be injured, or because they're 6 months of being, or 4 months of being in a place without being able to go anywhere is going to drive them insane, and teams are going to get weird. And I buy them being a team that can cut through that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And maybe then one guy at a night can work. So, yeah, I guess I would say I think they can be championship good, even if only in this particular context.
I probably side with Dan in that I don't know that I'd pick them over any of the favorites right now. I will, however, say that I am well past underestimating this team. Like I didn't think that they would be this good once Kawhi left, and they've been so good. And then beyond that, I have like a really soft spot for the Toronto Raptors. I spent a lot of time, as Dan did, we spent a lot of time around them last year in the playoffs. I spent a lot of time around them this year, which maybe for the listeners of the Ricky, don't listen to this next part, but I was putting together the oral history of the Kawhi shot. So I spent a lot of time with them.
Didn't read it.
I have a soft spot for Fred VanVleet. I have a soft spot for that team. I have a soft spot for that city where Dan and I ate not just poutine, but poutine pizza that was cooked with duck fat, which was friggin' phenomenal.
Spike did not enjoy that.
Oh, it was so good. It was so good. So Toronto and the Raptors in general, like I have nothing but positive things and feelings about them. But I don't know that I would pick them over the chalk contenders.
Yeah, I mean, they're very good. I love OG Anunoby. I have since IU. I think he's the fucking man. Inexplicable that Terrence Davis went undrafted. A number of those guys, like you look at that team, and
VanVleet was undrafted.
VanVleet, the highest drafted player on that team is Stanley Johnson, who doesn't play. Wow. Everybody else is in, like OG, I think went 18 or something like that, and everybody else is in the 20s or undrafted in the second round. It's ridiculous. I mean, they're an incredibly special team. I can't get over the fact that in the Sixers-Raptors series last year, the Sixers played Kawhi straight and had everybody else just like stay with their man. And Fred VanVleet looked scared as hell to touch the ball when he got it. Like he did nothing in that series.
He made 1 3.
I
think he made 1 3 the whole series.
It was ridiculous. I mean, like Danny Green I love Danny Green, and I think he was helpful, but wasn't doing it. It was Kawhi and like inexplicably Ibaka hit like 3 threes in that last game, which was absolutely crushing. And so
Imagine your power forward hitting threes.
I do wonder, like, I mean, maybe they just grew balls over the course of like the finals run last year, and they have the juice now to do it. And there's certainly, Siakam got better, OG got better, Van Vliet got better, Gasol is still an incredible defensive player. That might be just enough, but I can't get that out of my head of like those. It was Kawhi just like on his bad knees carrying them over the Sixers, and they barely got there. And since I didn't read John's article, don't believe it even happened.
I look at the East and I'm like, which team has a guy who can get buckets at the end of a game? And I keep getting back to like Boston, honestly. I actually think they could lose. The Sixers could beat them in the first round, but I watch the Bucks and I'm like, I don't know, Giannis, the end of the game. Like, what are you going to do? And would I rather have, like, I'm sorry, I hope Sixers fans have tuned out by now, but would I rather have like three of the guys on Boston or Chris Middleton at the end of a game? I don't know. There's like three guys on Boston I'd probably rather have at the end of a game.
So if you're gonna do the I don't know end of the game thing, then the Heat are interesting.
No, they're not.
Like, the Heat are interesting for that reason you just said. You're going against your own logic now.
The Sixers had that fucking guy last year, and where was he?
I'm saying they have more than just that one guy that you don't like.
They don't.
I think that. Okay, well, that you make a compelling argument by just saying nah.
Well, okay, all right, okay. Tyler Hero, no.
Tyler Hero,
Kendrick Nunn, no.
Duncan Robinson can hit clearly. You don't. I mean, look, I'm just saying for the reasons that you just outlined.
Fake team. All right. Last sponsor. So we know Gonz has dogs. We know Mike has Dan, dog guy.
Yeah, he's back there.
Oh, what's his name?
That's Luger.
Luger? Yes. Haley, dog?
No, maybe one day. It's too much responsibility.
Okay, I hear that. Big Barker therapeutic dog beds. Wait a minute, Luger doesn't have a Big Barker, does he?
No, he just has mine.
All right. Can we send him a bed?
Yes.
All right.
That would be great, and then Dan could keep sleeping in his again.
Yeah.
Dog. I'd also like a bed.
Okay, we can get you. You could sleep on the XL, Big Barker. I'm sure of it. Actually, they're enormous.
Comfy.
Yeah. Big Barker dog beds. We've talked about them a lot. Most dog beds are not even real beds. You get them if you've been a dog owner. You go to the pet store. You get the dog bed. You probably pay $45 for it. You lay it on the floor. If you were to lay on that bed, you'd notice you're basically just laying on the floor. Not Big Barker. Big Barker has been engineered by experts, is thick-ass memory foam. Go to bigbarker.com/Ricky, bigbarker.com/Ricky. You get the Big Barker dog bed. You also get 2 process pup patches that you can iron on your Big Barker. Or I have a bunch of patches I can't wait to put on my denim jacket. One of them is the process pup patch. But like, we've said it a million times, like, your dog is a living, breathing thing that has joints and has to be supported when you sleep. Dogs sleep a fuck ton.
A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, dogs sleep a lot. And if they are not, supported properly when they sleep, they're going to get creaky when they get older, and you don't want that. I trust Big Barker. I love Big Barker. Hey, also, if you have a Big Barker, if you've done this and you've noticed a difference in your dog, send an email to eric@bigbarker.com. They're working on something special. 10-year warranty. The foam doesn't flatten, or they replace it for free. 1-year at-home trial. If you don't like it, they'll give you a full refund. They'll even pay for that shipping. And if you do it, send us a picture of your dog on the Big Barker, and we'll throw them in the Process Pup Gallery. Handmade in the USA. Oh, you guys get to see Mike bark. Big Barker dog beds. Okay. All right.
I've been watching. Legitimately, this is probably the longest I've gone since basketball started back up from not watching basketball. The hour and a half that we've been doing this podcast is.
Oh wow!
Basketball has been on my TV just constantly between the NBA and the WNBA. Even the bad games. I'm watching the bad games, guys. I'm an unwell person. How should we feel? And I feel like slightly guilty about it. Because clearly the bubble is working. There have not been positive tests. That's great. Everybody seems to be, like, for the most part, happy to do this for a temporary time. But I can't help but feel like,
except for Kylo Quinn,
some amount of guilt consuming a product that has, like, taken so many resources to get done, and they're getting like tests a ton per day, and a lot of people in the real world it takes like a week or two, and I think that sucks. But I'm still watching a lot of basketball despite that guilt. How are you guys coping with that guilt? Do you feel it, or any advice on how to handle it?
Yeah, I feel that. I think it's one of the challenges in the run up to this was sort of like finding the right tone professionally. I don't know if that makes sense. Like we're supposed to. I
think I just nailed it just now.
You crushed it. It was
that question was all of it.
Absolutely dynamite. I do that, but I have to give it to an editor, and then they're like, "No, wrong. You did a bad job." I mean, where like I'm freaked out that this is at this being a use of resources and money and testing capacity and especially the rapid testing capacity. There's a part of me that is just like, and then the broader thing of what the bubble's holding, and what we're seeing now is, it's been several, I think it's like 3 rounds of tests now without a positive over several weeks. We also don't know what this looks like in 20 years for guys' lungs or whatever, right. Like that sort of broader thing. And Spike, this is something that Spike and I had talked about, where I was like, he was kind of like, I think you have to pull back from that. Like, I get why you're freaked out about it. I also was like in New York when New York was insane. And that maybe colored the way I think about all this stuff, where I'm just like, I'm seeing shadows, and maybe I shouldn't. But also, like, maybe the rest of the world is pretty or the rest of the country is pretty shady too. I don't know. It's hard to pull back from that entirely. To answer the question though, Mike, I'm watching for work. I'm watching to do what I have to do, and I'm trying to just like find some joy in the moments where I can, like. Because that was what basketball was a flotation device in a lot of ways for me before this. So trying to use that where I can, and then be responsible with the way that I'm interacting with the outside world when I'm outside.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult. I think the one thing to keep in mind is that this is happening. We have to do it for work. But just because there aren't positive tests, it's not like some aha moment or some gotcha moment from both parties before, the ones who thought it was a really good idea and the ones who thought it was a really bad idea, or even 3 if you want to say there's a party in between that was conflicted about it, because of what Dan just said. I don't think that the immediate repercussions of this bubble are going to be felt right now, or the future repercussions. I think that depending on how things shake out, and they've been shaking pretty poorly. Like, looking back on this year, this is a money move, like, without a doubt. So we need to remember that. We need to remember what Dan said, that we don't really know how this is going to affect people in the future who have had it. I've read a lot of scary interviews about people with past respiratory illnesses and how it affects them later in life, inexplicably, just out of nowhere. And then also the resources. My mom lives in Florida. Florida's very scary. She lives in Central Florida. So yeah, it's a money move, so that's just how I'm compartmentalizing it. But also, I am happy to watch basketball. So it's very conflicting for me.
John?
2 things can be true at the same time. On the one hand, to quickly summarize, I am happy that basketball is back. Although maybe with a caveat on that Sixers component.
Yeah.
And then also concerned about resources being allocated and like the long-term ramifications for people who are bubble adjacent. I think those, like, for you to say I'm conflicted and I feel weird about it, I think is completely natural. I think it's both things at the same time.
Yeah, I think that conflicted is a normal thing to feel. I think the other couple things that you have to think about are the resources are true, but these aren't like pooled resources that are just sitting there waiting to be used. If the NBA bubble doesn't happen, the resources to do these things doesn't happen. Like, if they're not driving this revenue, it's like it's self-fulfilling sort of thing. And the other thing is, we see these players, and Haley, you mentioned money, but like, there are a lot of people that are working now because of this that wouldn't be working, and that aren't just players, that are equipment people, that work for the teams, that work for the hotels, that work for. So like, I'm not saying it is a what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not saying like they're doing it for the greater good. Like they're doing it to make sure that their league doesn't collapse financially. But I also don't think that like there were $200 million waiting to throw to test to everybody. And that they're not getting them because the NBA is like, it's a complicated thing that unfortunately, like, we all deal with in a lot of different ways. But I wish it was as simple as it seems like it should be.
Well, I'll push back on your second point, because especially the people who are going back to work, they were on unemployment before. And then when your employer tells you, like we've seen with a lot of essential workers, hey, it's time to come back to work, you have to come back to work. If they don't, for a lot of places, then they're out of work. Then they no longer receive the same unemployment, or they're just not on furlough anymore, which means that when all this is done, they need to find a new job. So a lot of these people are forced into this particular situation, especially the Disney workers. And those Disney workers are provided with tests. If the NBA is doing this for money, then they should at least pay for Disney workers to have tests.
I would disagree in that, and this is not disagree. What I would say, though, is like that furlough becomes unemployment if there's no work. And I've watched that.
Then they don't have a job.
No. What I'm saying is if you get furloughed and then that business does not continue to generate revenue, that furlough, like, they fire you. And unemployment is great, but when 20% of the country is unemployed, like, I don't know where that money comes from. And what happens is, in the long term, like, what happens is if we keep making money to give everybody who are unemployed, then everything costs more. And the people that get hurt the most are the people who make the least. But so I agree with you. I don't know if
you do, but it's okay. But I would just say that a company like Disney is so big that they're going to run out of money. Your argument might stand with a mom and pop, but Disney will not run out of money. They were laying people off before this.
I agree with you.
When it comes time to open the parks, they will always need someone to work the parks, and they will always open the parks.
No. I agree with you. I agree that Disney in this case is enormous, and they have money. For sure, 100%. And I think there's obviously a world of difference between Disney and mom and pop. Like, there's a lot of businesses in between Disney and mom and pop that are affected by the NBA. Like even NBC Sports Philadelphia, who we were talking about earlier, are affected by the NBA being there or not being there. And then you're talking about $40,000 workers and $50,000 workers and those sorts of things. But Disney will eventually, if they don't get to make movies and open their parks, not have money to pay people.
Well, their parks are already open, just limited.
Limited, right. But like, whatever. I understand your opinion. I respect it. I respect it. I think it is. There are a lot of like different things going on at once. And what I don't want to do is demonize the NBA for playing, because I don't think it. I think by and large it helps more people than it hurts. To me.
I would disagree, but I respect your point.
Sure.
Yeah, it just throws into stark contrast of like, we're sending athletes who are the whole reason that the league exists. And then, the people that drive the players to and from the bubble stadium or whatever it's called, and they're on the front lines and stuff. And it's just like, hey, go do it. Go do it for us to like sit at home and enjoy it. And I get that they're getting paid, and I get that they're
players want to play.
A lot of them do under like safe conditions will want to play and want to do it. But it's still just like, I watch it and I feel like, it's a global pandemic, and this is sad, and I wish that we weren't being forced to make this decision, and feel conflicted that people are potentially, whether they're willing to do it or not, potentially sacrificing ramifications down the road that we just simply don't know yet because of how much we don't know about this illness.
Yeah, and to Spike's point, like, I think it was Darius Soriano at Forum Blue and Gold, which is a really good Lakers site. Haley was talking about independent sites that cover teams really closely. And Darius is a really smart dude and wrote a really good piece about not like sitting in that discomfort and like, but also not stripping agency away from adults who decided to make make choices for, God knows how many reasons, some financial or competitive or legacy or whatever. It's perhaps worth noting it is a Lakers blog. But that idea that like I've tried to sit with that a little bit too. I sit in that discomfort for me, and I can't substitute my decision making or my process for somebody else's. It's not for me to judge whether or not those guys made the right choice by saying they wanted to do it, or if Avery Bradley was the one who was making the like right, appropriate choice. These are contextual and individual cases. If they canceled the whole thing because they didn't think it was safe, I would have understood that. I probably also would have been out of a job, but that's that's neither here nor there, I suppose. Right. That they decided to go ahead with it. If they can try to, around the margins to whatever degree they can, make positive contributions with things like expanding testing around Orlando, with things like the
Nope.
Oh no!
Lost Dan.
Yeah, he was gonna.
Such a good point. I could see his face.
It is a good free frame.
He was gonna say the best thing he had ever said.
I know this.
Oh, he's back!
I'm so sorry. I like basketball, and I'm glad we did it.
Nailed it. And this is why Heat Check was the best in the business.
Oh man, that's good.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, Mike. I had one other question for you guys. You mentioned the guest list. So, all right. So our big list. I wanted to know if you had them on, what your question would be for the following people. These are the big ones we've had. 5 of them: Joel Embiid, Daryl Morey, Andrew Yang, Chuck Klosterman, and world champion bowler and Sixers fan Bill O'Neill.
For Daryl, I'd want to know: do you regret it? Do you regret the tweet? Or do you feel? Or
yeah,
do you,
we didn't ask about it.
Yeah, no. I mean, and frankly, I probably wouldn't either. But like, if we're talking about in our shadow podcast that has secret bands and whatever else, do you regret it? Like, everything that happened. I mean, that now seems like what is that? Like the 9th or 5th like craziest thing that happened this year.
I was gonna say you could tell me that was 2 years ago, and I would believe you.
Yeah, man. But like, or with the benefit of distance, do you feel like justified? Do you feel right in what you did? Because, I have no idea the extent of the conversations that guy had to have as a result of that. But I'm would sure imagine,
for a really pretty harmless and like genuinely stand with protesters against total,
and who he had to have the conversations with. Imagine talking to.
But so that would be it. Do you regret it after the fact?
Mine would be, do you regret it, but for the Chris Paul trade? Because I think that I mean, not to be like that. It's definitely not as serious, but I just think about that all the time. You look where the Clippers are, and you look at their bench, and it just seems like the Rockets completely shifted this beautiful little, like they were so deep, and they still shoot so many threes, but they were just so equipped for what they wanted to do. They took them, and now they're flying elsewhere. And Chris Paul isn't even there, so I always wonder that.
I have one for Andrew Yang, reformed Knicks fan now, Nets fan. What took so long? Like, at what point, like, after all these years of being a Knicks fan, like, obviously a shoe dropped, but that shoe should have dropped way earlier, man. Like,
I'll tell you, man. The Knicks fan thing is in his blood. He says he dropped the Knicks. That dude did not drop the Knicks. I don't know.
I know it's tough, but still, you got a GTFO. You got Dolan. I mean, like, as somebody who is not obviously a New Yorker or a Knicks fan, I hope Dolan, and I've said this, never sells because it's endless content on the podcast that we used to do. We love the content, but if you're a Knicks fan, that's got to be absolutely friggin' brutal.
Look, so you want to do this now, man?
Where's your head at? Dan, would you rather the Knicks be, let's say they're not in the bubble, let's say they're just like a regular team that didn't make this cut of the playoffs.
Okay.
Would you rather be that, or would you rather be the current Sixers in all of their frustration?
Ooh, that's good.
That is good.
No, I think I would rather be the current Sixers, even with all the frustration, because right now I'm getting the frustration, and I've been getting the frustration for most of the last 20 years, without having the moments of like sheer joy that is like when you watch Embiid like put a guy into a trash compactor, or like you watch what Simmons is in transition. Or those playoff games, like the Wells Fargo games during last year's playoffs, where it was like, oh, they can beat everybody. Like the joy of those things when it starts to look right. There was 1 year in the last God knows how many, the accidental cool team of Carmelo at the 4 when all the guys got hurt playing 2-point guards at once, shooting a ton of threes, and I didn't get to enjoy it because I kept being like, wait, is this real or is this not real? And I have to write about it or whatever. Like, fuck that. Like, no, I'd rather have a team that could make you feel those things, even if it came with other stuff.
I was going to actually ask you two, or I guess you three, how you consider yourselves or Philadelphia fans in the spectrum of really unlucky fans, because you have the Eagles, and I don't follow baseball or hockey, but how bad can you all be? And then the Sixers, like, you're regularly in the playoffs. It's just, like you said, miserable because you feel like you're on this treadmill of not even mediocrity, like much above mediocrity.
Right.
So I don't know where you guys consider yourselves in terms of like unlucky. Like obviously, if you guys said that you hated your fandom experience to someone from DC or from Minnesota, they don't apply.
It's different, right? Like I look at the Kings or the Suns, or like the Cavs before they won the one they won, and it's like, well, for the most part, those teams are just futile, right? It's just like. The Kings are always going to make the mistake, and they're going to, they drafted Bagley over Doncic, and it's like that was dumb then, and it's dumb now. Like we can see it happen, and so there's those things. The Sixers have a different way of doing it, and I would say that almost all Philadelphia teams had it, where the past 10 years, 5-10 years of Philadelphia fandom has been like with many highs aside from the Eagles. Like the Eagles winning like kind of threw me off in the sense of like, well, I guess good things do happen in a sense. So it's hard to reckon with that still. But for the Sixers specifically, it's like they were so uninteresting after Iverson and before the process. They couldn't have been there was just the absolute flattest franchise in sports. And then going from like the Bynum trade until now has been straight up, and which is most of my like online Sixers public
insanity.
What's the
meltdown,
like, mental long breakdown,
fugue state.
That all of it has been just a Mad Libs of wild things that you have to just justify in your mind and try to like defend or
the bowling,
at least come to terms with.
The bowling.
Hey, Andrew Bynum bowling.
Yeah.
Bowling.
The Petri dish. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And so I think unlucky is selling us short and also giving us too much credit, because we have Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Like that's very exciting. A lot of teams don't have even close to that. And they do have, the past 2 or 3 seasons have had a chance to get to the finals, which not many teams can say. But there's just always like Zaire is going to have a sesame allergy that nearly kills him, and like that's fine. We're watching that happen. I hope he's okay. But then we're watching like Mikal Bridges be really good in Phoenix, and it's like, well, if only we didn't trade him for the guy that nearly died, maybe it would have been different. And 3 straight centers in the draft, and there's just like all the weird things, and like having how many guys who maybe if they learn how to shoot that haven't learned how to shoot. Just over and over again. There's just always going to be the Burnergate stuff is the top of mind all the time, 100% of the time. So there's it's not unlucky, although I hear why it would we would borrow some of the same like feelings of an unlucky franchise. It's more just like sheer insanity all the time.
Do you mean
it drives me insane?
Do you mean Sixers or Philadelphia?
That's interesting. I guess Philadelphia as a whole.
So our bit just like our bit is blue collar, and that's not really the city anymore, even though there's as many blue collar people as in. Our bit is, us again. It's like part of our identity, even though the Phillies won in 08, the Eagles won in 2017, 18. The Sixers are good now, even though I could argue that the Sixers have become those exact Hawks teams with Joe Johnson, Josh Smith, and Al Horford that we used to make fun of.
You used to make fun of.
51 wins. No, I mean like pre-us. Like we were like, who wants to be the Hawks? Like the.
But we're not the Hawks. We're a team that has two legitimate superstars. That has
no. We don't. We don't have two.
We do.
The Ben Simmons is not a superstar. He's not.
Still early in their careers. Jordan didn't win until
Ben Simmons. First of all, Ben Simmons is just not a superstar, and like we can say it from now until whenever. But if you can't give a dude the ball in the crunch time of a basketball game and he can score, he's not a superstar. That's like, and I know it sounds like I'm old, but it's the truth. There's no superstar in the history of the fucking NBA who you can say is a superstar without being able to do that. He's not. He's like the 27th best player in the NBA. And Embiid, until he proves that he's one of the, like there's just a normal deviation. I love Embiid. So talented, capable of being top 5. But when you look at LeBron, Kawhi, Giannis, he's not the same right now. He's just not the same. He's not the same. They have 2 star players. But they don't have 2 superstars. They don't. And I know people were arguing that Josh Smith could be fucking awesome, and Joe Johnson's a fucking Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer. He's like a no-doubt Hall of Famer. He made like 12 All-Star teams in a row. And you can have...
I don't think Joe Johnson's a Hall of Famer.
He's unquestionably a Hall of Famer.
I wouldn't vote for Joe Johnson.
I can't believe we're here.
Well, they're not that guy yet. Embiid might be, and Ben Simmons is so scared. He's scared of shooting. We just traded a guy for Jonathan Simmons, or what the fuck, from the Orlando. Jonathan, we traded a guy who was scared of shooting for him. He's not a superstar. They have potential to be superstars, but they are not superstars. James Harden is a superstar. Steph Curry is a superstar. Giannis is a superstar. LeBron's a superstar. Kawhi's a superstar. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, one day, they are not superstars. They're just not superstars.
That was amazing.
Haley, to answer your question, you just got treated to a Philadelphia master course. As I said previously, angry and frustrated as one Philadelphia shines, and you just got a good look at it.
We have to go back to Mike saying, listen, Jordan didn't win until whatever, like in the context of Ben Simmons, and I was like, wait, are we talking about like when he figures out the mid-range game, that's what it's going to be? Like, it's like,
I just think even Michael didn't win until the 7th year.
That's true.
So
that's for sure true.
You got to give for an organization that has been through, like Dan said, 1,400 different rosters in the last 3 seasons, and before that, like, there's got to be some level of continuity. And clearly, Al Horford and Josh Richardson are not the continuity we want around these guys. But at some point, we got to settle into who we want around the 2 guys we believe can be NBA championship level stars. And I still believe in them wholeheartedly in the future. And who the fuck knows this year, if they want to, bring pain to every household in the country watching this team play on the highest stage, then they might do it. But I just think, like, they're still young. 3rd and 4th season, that's still plenty young. Hopefully they hold up health-wise. But I think they're certainly on the road, and they're certainly not the fucking Hawks from the 2012.
Well, I think we're part of the problem. Like, I agree with you that they're young, but we can't say because they will be a superstar that they are a superstar in the same breath, right? Like, Devin Booker's not a superstar, and he's fucking great. That dude's great. He's a great player. He's not a superstar. And, like, the same way that Simmons is not a superstar. Like, those superstars are fucking adults. They're adults. Like, they just come in and like, Giannis is like fucking 38 and 16 every game. And Joel, we're like, oh, is he going to play tonight? Like, it's the same. Ben, is he going to shoot a jump shot? It's not the same thing. It's just not the same thing. It's not.
This is why the Sixers is not unlucky. It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
Can I be even more annoying and ask you guys a question like I'm the host?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. Dan, you can play too.
Thank you.
Everyone fix the Sixers in a sentence. So how would you fix the Sixers in short answer? One sentence. Because I'm so curious, because obviously you guys have different stances about where y'all are and what the prospects of the future are, even though you all seem to disagree that right now is pretty shit. So I'm wondering in a sentence how you would fix them.
Well,
Dan, you start.
Yeah.
Okay. No one's going to hear this, right? I'll cut out my audio. It'll cut out again. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know the easy answer, or the answer that everyone rushes to, is that you have to trade one of them and decide which one you build around. I don't like it. I want to see what I want to see what it looks like if there were three guys who could shoot around them.
That's right.
That's
the answer.
I would want, and so that's why I mean, like, we have perhaps gone a bit far as a basketball internet into.
They had it, Dan. They had it. They had Covington and Redick and Saric. They had it.
Yeah, and you know what? No, but it's good. But that's exactly right. And you know what? That was a pretty fucking good lineup, and it worked really, really well. And what if you gave those guys to your? So I mean, that's like you can't retroactively say, well, they shouldn't have done those things. Or I guess I mean, Spike certainly can, but we can't do that now. We can't say Superman spins around the world until we go back to not make the Butler trade. But you get three guys that shoot around the two of them, and then let them play for a year and a half and see what it looks like. Would be my answer.
I would add to that. Get me guys who can actually penetrate and get to the rim and create, so that Ben can be that guy in transition, and in half court he can be jack of all trades guy.
Didn't you have that in Jimmy though?
He didn't shoot.
Yeah.
I need a guy who can get to the rim and also shoot. Jimmy shot 28% from three this year.
On instruction, and then later in the year they were like, we want him to shoot more? Or am I misremembering?
Nah, he didn't shoot for a whole month because he was throwing a tantrum once. Yeah.
It's bizarre. But I would also, and I'm at a place right now where I think there's too much baggage with Brett, and I would just get a different coach that just presses defense. And
I feel bad for him, but I'm going to tell you what, he looks like he can have a good time. Do you know what I mean? He's just so
totally.
tan. He looks like he's been on an island.
Yeah.
I feel like of all NBA coaches, he'd be fun to go party with.
I think he needs a better skincare routine, at least some sunscreen.
That's a lot of weathering on your face. Yeah. Not that he looks bad. I'm just saying it'll come up.
Weathering is not something that people normally take as a compliment.
John, fix the Sixers.
Yeah.
No, Spike, go ahead.
I would hire a real president of basketball operations and fire the entire front office.
I don't have a solution. I do have commentary, however. I would like to say that of the three people who answered, only Spike played the game, because Haley said answer in a sentence, and both Dan
it's a
gave
podcast
monologues, which is a note that I've given to both of them on previous shows, Dan on Heat Check and Mike on the 700 level show, where I'm hey, give me the soundbite version, and we end up chopping it all. So Spike, you're the winner on that one, buddy.
It's funny you mentioned the 700 level thing. A couple of times, Mike, you were an Angelo guest a couple of times, right? And
yeah, he didn't have me back.
No, and Ricky's own Mike O'Connor was on this morning, and I wish. Mike is Mike's podcast guy, and Angelo needs 3 sentences with an opinion in it. And I remember hearing it, and I was like, well, this isn't going to work.
Not for me. Let me take you back to 1997 first before I answer the question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, guys, look, here's what I want to say as we conclude this. At the very beginning of this, I wasn't making fun of the Heat Check thing. I was showing love. This was me showing love.
Are you curious about the Disney stuff? It's because I'm not going to let that go. You started off on the wrong foot.
we can have a whole other pod about that. My brother works for Disney, lives in LA, works for Disney. I don't even want to say what his commentary on it would be, but no, I appreciate you coming on. I was just fucking around, and now I felt bad about it right away. if you didn't still work for them, I would have not joked so much, but you used to work there, so I was joking. I appreciate you guys coming on. This was fun. It's
all good. And I wanted to say, like, today was a weird day in the media landscape, as a lot of the days have been. A bunch of people that I worked with that I respect, that I think are fantastic humans, lost their jobs at NBC Sports Philly, and like, it sucks. It really fucking sucks. And like, my heart goes out to them, and I hope that they all get hired. But what I was going to say is, like, this is a brutal business, and what makes it good more times than not are the people that you meet along the way. And it's not just for those people that I worked with then, it's for your 4 smiling faces. So like Spike, you and I played baseball together when we were in Little League, but we didn't know each other until we started doing this. And Mike and Alyssa have become 2 of the closest people to me and Colleen in our lives. And Haley and Dan doing Heat Check with you guys was like one of the great pleasures of my career, even though it didn't last as long as I wanted it to. And I thought it was a really good show, but it was because I love the 2 of you guys. So Spike and Mike, the whole point of this is, on a day like this, thank you for having us on, because it reminds me what I like about this business, and it's the people.
Ah,
what a sweet.
That's sweet.
Come on.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going to beat that.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about God some more.
Yeah. Fuck. I'm not going to say anything.
All I'll say is that it was a lot of fun to get to talk to the 2 of you guys again, and I'm glad that whatever my banning status was at least appended for tonight. So thanks for having me on.
I can't wait to find out after this that I've been not so secretly banned.
You guys are good.
Well, after the Disney thing. Yeah. Well, thank you guys. Well, you're all still writing, so read their shit.
John, do you still have an underscore in your handle?
No, man, I am the official John Gonzalez, your one and true John Gonzalez king of all the other John Gonzalez's.
Wow.
Number 1 with the check.
Yeah,
missed the underscore. Leading with the underscore was always.
Yeah.
Hit me with the @ and then step right into a divot. Just like
how
dive
are you
into
gonna,
it.
as somebody who has an underscore in his, how are you gonna do underscore on underscore crime right now? Like, I had one, I no longer have one, and you're still hitting me for it.
Yeah,
inexplicable.
Yeah, I gotta side with Mike on this, and we rarely side. The first thing being underscore. If you were to explain to somebody, hey, what's your Twitter? Okay, the first thing is nothing.
Do you know how many? There are so many John Gonzalez's in the world. Like
Not
a
anymore.
zillion John Gonzalez's. Try to find a Twitter handle with John Gonzalez in it.
Make up a name, Spike. Just make up a name. There's a lot of people with your name. Make one up.
Well, now I don't have to.
Yeah.
No, I don't have to.
There are a lot of people with my name too.
Dan, anybody?
A lot of Haley O'Shaughnessy's.
Yeah, I'll never fully own my SEO as a sports guy because of the Notre Dame head coach who was mean to Rudy. So I get that every time that movie's on, somebody's like, you know what joke has never been made to this guy before? Is why wouldn't you play him? And I'm like, well, because he was undersized and we valued speed at that position.
Hostile to Rudy.
Yeah.
Finally, we found a guy that Dan doesn't.
Yeah, so he can go fuck himself. But you
He's
guys
the
are
guy that
wonderful.
Dan would ban from the pod.
That's right.
There you go.
Sean Astin.
All right.
Exactly.
Thank you, guys. This was great.
Thank you.
You're the best. Mike, tell Alyssa you guys are coming down this weekend.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, that's on the pod. So, all right.
Yeah, to be fair, should I say something?
Yes. Say something touching. Do you have something touching?
No, not really.
Okay. All right. Thank you for coming on. Send me your gambling tips. All right. All right, we will talk to you recording Sunday night, right?
Yep.
Portland.
More games.
Who do they play? Orlando and then Portland? Is that what we got?
Feels like 2 either close losses or annoying wins.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Portland was the best win of the year, arguably, I would say. Right? Ferk shot?
I don't feel anything anymore.
Okay. All right. You down with TTP?
Yeah, you know, like this.
If you don't fuck with me,
then I won't fuck with you. If you don't fuck with me,
then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
if you don't fuck with me,
Then I won't fuck with you.
But if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you!
Time for plan B.